Welcome to the John and Heidi Show podcast.
John and Heidi.
Here's John and Heidi.
Today is a special day, Heidi. Do you know what today is?
What is today, John?
I thought you'd never ask. It's a weekend, so let's do the whole darn weekend. Saturday, September the 5th, National Cheese Pizza Day. I love cheese pizza.
Me too.
I also love pepperoni pizza and sausage pizza. I kind of like a lot of different kinds of
Me
pizza.
too.
National Be Late for Something Day.
You celebrate that every day.
You know, I don't mean to. I just overplan. National Tailgating Day and World Beard Day. All that happening Saturday, the 5th of September. On Sunday, the 6th, National Coffee Ice Cream Day. Is that a flavor of ice cream?
It is.
Have I ever had that?
I would assume you have.
I
It's
love
been around
ice cream.
forever.
I love coffee. I don't know if I've had it. I have to try it. And Sunday the 6th, also National Read a Book Day. And if you do like to read books, I've got an author joining us. But in addition to an author, she's also a doctor, Dr. Linsdey Fitzharris. And in addition to doctor and author, she's also a TV show host. She's got a new program that actually is launching this weekend. It's called The Curious Life and Death of ... And then it's somebody different each time, like Lizzie Borden or, whoever. A bunch of famous and infamous people who lived and died.
Interesting.
On the Smithsonian Channel starting this weekend. Thanks for listening to The John and Heidi Show.
The old way of living with diabetes is a pain. The new way is with a continuous glucose monitor. You simply apply a discreet, easy-to-use sensor on your body. If you test your blood sugar at least 4 times per day and inject insulin at least 3 times per day or use an insulin pump and have private insurance or Medicare, you might be eligible for a CGM with little or no cost to you. Call now and say goodbye to finger pricks.
800-659-7805. That's 800-659-7805.
Now, surveys and studies and such brought to you by BetterCreditCards.com. A study by the American Academy of Medicine found that 9 in 10 college kids suffer from the fear of being without a smartphone. So they did a survey and they asked them, well, would you be afraid of this or that?
Yeah.
And one of the things that scared it says on here college kids. I think that's the wrong way to say it. College students, I think, would be the right way because they're not kids anymore. Some of them act like it maybe, but 9 in 10 college students.
I bet that applies to way more than just college students.
Yeah, probably. But this was a survey of college students. 9 in 10 said they are afraid of being without a smartphone.
You are?
Oh, yeah.
Just yesterday.
Yeah.
You're like, where's my phone?
Where'd I put my phone?
Where's my phone? I can't find my phone.
And it was sitting on the printer.
It was only away from you for like 2 minutes.
I had accused everyone in the office of taking my phone. I had to walk around and say, hey, remember I called you a dirty, rotten thief?
I apologize.
Found it. It's right here. You're not a dirty, rotten thief. You have a great day. All right. Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show. If you have a credit card, our friends at BetterCreditCards.com would like to make sure it's the best credit card for you. Take a few minutes to look at your current interest rate and then see what you get for points and perks. Then go to BetterCreditCards.com to see if they can help you find a better credit card. This will literally cost you nothing, and it could help you save money by getting a better credit card. Even if you don't have a credit card right now, you can check it out too at BetterCreditCards.com. That's BetterCreditCards.com. This is your Brain on Drugs, brought to you by TimeForRehab.com. Every day at this time, we usually share stories about people who do something silly under the influence. And then the whole idea is if you're doing that, if you can relate to that, maybe, find the help you need. TimeForRehab.com. Today, it's going to be a little different, though, Heidi. Today, I'm not really going to share a story about somebody doing something under the influence, but it has to do with drugs. I didn't know where else to put it, and I thought this would be a good place. A study by the Warsaw Zoo, they're giving medical marijuana to stressed out elephants to see if it'll help. Now, the sad thing is, I don't know if it's helping. They don't have any details on here whether or not that's working. Who came up with this idea? So the Warsaw Zoo is giving medical marijuana to stressed out elephants to see if it'll help. Who came up with that plan?
I have no idea.
And how are they giving the marijuana to an elephant? Because I can't imagine an elephant would smoke marijuana, so I'm assuming they're feeding it to them?
I don't know.
This whole thing seems so weird. It was going to be my weird news for today, but I was like, since it's mentioning drugs, we'll put it here. Because that's what happens when your brain, even if it's an elephant brain, is on drugs. Now, big screen, little screen, brought to you by ChannelSurferTV.com. Full House star Candace Cameron Bure. She's been on this program before.
She has. She's a sweetheart.
Yeah, and she's a huge fan of the show. So, just kidding. She probably doesn't even remember being on the show. But she announced on Instagram that her 20-year-old son, Lev has gotten engaged. Did you get an invite to the...
I didn't. I'm sure it was just misplaced.
Probably. Yeah, I haven't seen it either here. Bradley Cooper and director Paul Thomas Anderson are filming a new movie on location in L.A., making this the only production that is not taking place on a secluded soundstage because of the pandemic. So I'm not exactly sure how they're getting away with that, because like there are other people
Maybe they just said, we're not
I don't
participating.
know. They're working on nothing. I've got a link to the story if you want the details. I don't know anything else. And then finally, a former production assistant on TMZ Live has filed a discrimination complaint against Harvey Levine and Warner Brothers that could lead to a lawsuit down the line. You know what TMZ stands for?
No.
Anybody? 30-mile zone. It's the zone around Hollywood. So the TMZ, that's what that is.
I did not know.
Now you do. Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show.
If you take Viagra or Cialis, call now with your prescription and pay as little as $2 a pill. Call Pharmacy Shop 24/7 to get generic versions of Viagra or Cialis for as little as $2 a pill, plus free discreet shipping.
Call 800-214-7977. 800-214-7977. 800-214-7977. Again, that's 800-214-7977.
Now your scoop of the day, it comes your way, courtesy of InsuranceChicken.com. Science tells us the best time of the day to take a nap. They say it is best to take a nap between 1 p.m. and 2:30 p.m. What do you think?
I think I can start planning for that in my day.
Here's the thing. I think it would make the most sense to take a nap when you're tired, if you happen to be during that time. But doctors, they used to think afternoon sleepiness was a result of a big lunch. But then they found that in the early afternoons, there's a dip in body temperature, which causes sleepiness. So it has nothing to do with, right after lunch. So there you go. Or maybe if you're doubling down, maybe it's both of those things.
I could
but
see
that's,
that.
At least one of those things has nothing to do with lunch. Founder of a women's online travel magazine, this is the title, Abroad. So it's abroad.
I love that.
So the founder of this, she wrote an article advertising women who encountered polar bears should take off their clothes because bears are distracted easily and that will allow you time to run away. Wait a minute. What? Who tested this theory? So if you encounter a bear, you're supposed to just slowly strip naked, and the bear's going to be like, what? I don't recommend that, by the way. I think it sounds like a completely awful idea. 87-year-old Hiromu Inada, I'm probably saying it wrong, I apologize. Hiromu is the world's oldest Iron Man. He plans on competing. He's 87 right now. Plans on competing into his 90s.
Okay.
So this dude is
That's pretty
physically
cool.
fit. Oh, yeah, it is very cool. And kind of makes me think, maybe I shouldn't be skipping, every other day at the gym. But then I also skip every other day at the gym, and I just don't go. So I should really get back on track. People with visible tattoos are more likely to be reckless and impulsive than those without ink, according to a new study. It's from McMaster University.
I could see that because it takes a certain personality to want to go in and say, hey.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
Put it right here. 1,000 people they talked to. And it looked at people in long-term decision-making things, so not just the tattoo, but they said all of this different stuff. And then the ones who had visible tattoos that you could see. So that's the thing. It's not just tattoos, but visible tattoos.
Right.
Because I know a lot of people that have tattoos that you don't see them. But then I also know people who have tattoos that are like very, very obvious. And those who have a visible tattoo, visible rather, tend to be more reckless and impulsive than those without. Study employed monetary game often used by researchers to assess long-term planning ability. Non-tattooed people made wiser choices earlier in the game. And one last story here. Crazy video captured the moment that doctors pulled a 4-foot snake from a lady's throat.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, this happened in Russia. She was sleeping and a
Oh,
snake
my gosh.
slithered in from outside. It's unclear whether it was alive or how long it had been inside her before she was rushed to the hospital. But there's a video. I watched it, and I wish that I hadn't.
Oh.
If you want to regret watching it, I have a link to it in the show notes.
That is horrifying.
Yeah, it's
How would you not wake up before it got all the way down your throat?
She was snoozing. Maybe she snored and like sucked the snake right. I don't know. I have no idea what happened, but all I know is not good. Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show. Nobody wants to buy car insurance. It's not a fun thing to think about, but it's something you need if you want to drive your car. So even if you don't want to buy insurance, you probably have to get it from someone. So why not buy it from InsuranceChicken.com? Okay, I'll admit, our website name is dumb. InsuranceChicken.com. Yeah, our marketing department is not that great. But our selection of insurance options is amazing. See if we can save you money each month on our dumb website, InsuranceChicken.com. That's InsuranceChicken.com. Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show this weekend. Our guest today, Dr. Linsdey Fitzharris, and she's an author, she's a doctor, and the host of a new program that premieres this weekend. It's on the Smithsonian Channel, The Curious Life and Death of. And Dr. Fitzharris, thanks for joining us today.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm coming to you from England despite the Chicago accent. I've lived over here for 18 years. It's wonderful to be on your show today.
That is really cool. Now, you're a best-selling author, and you're a medical historian, and you've got a doctorate from Oxford, but we're going to be talking right now about this Curious Life and Death of from the Smithsonian Channel. How did this whole project come about?
Well, you know, I had this reputation of doing a lot of gruesome history, so I have a book called The Butchering Art, which is all about the horrors of pre-anesthetic surgery. And I think the network just thought, that girl's got a morbid curiosity and a strong stomach. You know, let's put her as the host of this show. And it has a little bit of something for everybody. It's got forensic science, it's got true crime, it's got a bit of history. It's kind of like a biography from the morgue, if you'll excuse the cheesy way of explaining that.
And the thing that's interesting, a lot of the people that you guys are talking about on the program are people that just about everybody has heard of. But you guys kind of talk about the things that maybe we haven't heard of.
Yeah, I hope that people will find some really interesting new angles. One of the things that we have on the show are these ballistic gel bodies created by this guy named Chris Mills out in Los Angeles. And they allow us to do various scientific tests. So, for instance, in one episode, we're looking at the death of the 1980s cocaine king, Pablo Escobar. And some people who know Escobar's story will wonder, well, what is there to say there? He was taken out by the Colombian police, end of. But actually, we interviewed his son. His son was the last person to talk to Escobar on that fateful day in 1993. And his son says that there's no way that his father would have been taken by the police, and so he believes his father took that kill shot on the rooftop in Medellin in Colombia. So we take these gel bodies and we put them through various ballistic tests to see who would have taken that kill shot. We know the guns that were on the rooftop that day. And in the first episode, I'm going to be reopening the case against Lizzie Borden, who allegedly took an axe in 1892 and killed her father and stepmother.
And that's one I was looking at here, Lizzie Borden. And again, that's a story that a lot of people know. Are there new things that we discover in this program that maybe we didn't know?
Yeah, you know, I think it's one of those stories that people think they know. For instance, a lot of people that I've talked to didn't even realize that she was tried for murder in 1893, but she was acquitted by an all-male jury who couldn't conceive that a woman could commit such a crime. So I had the fun of taking the hatchet to one of these ballistic gel bodies and seeing just how hard that was to wield the axe, but also how much blood I would have been covered in. Because the weird thing is that Lizzie Borden isn't covered in any blood when the police arrived. So the things we look at is, you know, did she have the motive, the opportunity? And if she didn't, how was it that she got away with it without really any kind of forensic evidence that we know of on her? But the case is very interesting as well because this is, you know, late Victorian period. They're starting to do some kind of early forensics. For instance, they have photographs of the victims, and these photos are used in the trial to undermine the testimony of Lizzie Borden. So I think there's a lot of rich historical detail there, and we definitely come up with a verdict of our own at the end of that.
That's cool. And if Lizzie didn't do it, then who did?
Yeah, and that's one of the things we look at. And I'll tell you what, if she did it, one of her last requests was that she be buried next to her father, and she is indeed buried next to her father. So, I mean, that's levels of psychopathy to be buried next to the victims. But, you know, there's just so many wild aspects to this story, and I think that people are going to enjoy being transported to the past to revisit the Borden murders. But we do a mixture of historical, so we look at an unknown child pulled from the wreckage of the Titanic, who then many, many years later is exhumed, and whether we can DNA test this body and actually identify this child so many years after the accident. We also look at the death of Harry Houdini, which is fascinating. And then we have the contemporary ones. We have Pablo Escobar. We have Brittany Murphy, the starlet from the 1990s. We actually interview her husband's mother, because Brittany Murphy died under mysterious circumstances, and her husband died in identical circumstances in the same house, in the same room 2 months later. So That's a really strange story there.
What an interesting idea for a show. I would have never thought to do this, but I'm really glad that you guys did. Now, it premieres this weekend on the Smithsonian Channel. If people miss it, are there other ways they can find it too?
And there'll be opportunities to see it. I believe download it through Amazon Prime and iTunes and things like that at a later date.
And again, it does premiere on the Smithsonian Channel this weekend, and you'll be able to catch it each Sunday night on that channel. Again, Dr. Fitzharris, thanks for the time.
Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Again, we've got all the details in the show notes for today at johnandheidishow.com.
The old way of living with diabetes is a pain. The new way is with a continuous glucose monitor. You simply apply a discreet, easy-to-use sensor on your body. If you test your blood sugar at least 4 times per day and inject insulin at least 3 times per day, or use an insulin pump and have private insurance or Medicare, you might be eligible for a CGM with little or no cost to you. Call now and say goodbye to finger pricks.
800-659-7805. That's 800-659-7805.
Fun fact for you, Heidi.
What's that, John?
In California, you cannot legally buy a mousetrap without having a hunting license. I don't know if that's still accurate. But according to this, there was a law on the books that said if you want to buy a mousetrap, you need to have a hunting license.
I don't know.
Anyway, that was at least at one point the truth. And if it is today, it's very bizarre. But even if it's not, it was at one point, which makes it very bizarre. And also, it makes it today's fun fact. If you have a credit card, our friends at BetterCreditCards.com would like to make sure it's the best credit card for you. Take a few minutes to look at your current interest rate and then see what you get for points and perks. Then go to BetterCreditCards.com to see if they can help you find a better credit card. This will literally cost you nothing, and it could help you save money by getting a better credit card. Even if you don't have a credit card right now, you can check it out too at BetterCreditCards.com. That's BetterCreditCards.com. Time now for a news headline from somewhere in this world. Dateline Israel, the first commercial flight in history, recently took off from Israel to the United Arab Emirates. It happened last week. Commercial air travel is a major step towards peace.
Absolutely.
These
That's
are two
fantastic.
countries that instead of flights going back and forth, it used to be,
missiles
weapons and missiles.
That's fantastic. I love that.
Why is that not bigger news? Because that's good news for everybody.
It was huge news when it happened, but not very many people covered it. It's
but I'm saying that's where it would be. I think that's something we should all be cheering. Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show this weekend.
If you take Viagra or Cialis, call now with your prescription and pay as little as $2 a pill. Call Pharmacy Shop 24/7 to get generic versions of Viagra or Cialis for as little as $2 a pill, plus free discreet shipping.
Call 800-214-7977. 800-214-7977. 800-214-7977. Again, that's 800-214-7977.
Now, a little weird news brought to you by WeirdGiftOfTheDay.com. We head to Germany, where a university is offering scholarships to 3 lucky people who will have nothing to do. Absolutely nothing. University of Fine Arts in Hamburg is accepting applications for the, quote, Scholarship for Do Nothing. September the 15th. So we got, what do we have? We got a little over a week. You could still subscribe for this, or subscribe? What do you call that? No, you don't subscribe for a scholarship.
I don't.
Apply. That's probably the word I'm looking for. Can you tell I ain't got me none of them? They're scholarships. The world we live in is driven by the belief in success, in growth, in money. This thinking was leading us to an ecological crisis and a social injustice situation when we are living. We wanted to turn that upside down by giving a grant for the best, doing nothing, doing a project, but doing nothing, according to the professor there. Creator of the scholarship project told a news organization that applicants of any age and any nationality can apply. It's a $1,900 stipend. Questions from the applicant: what do you want not to do? How long do you want not to do it for? And why is it important for you not to do this particular thing? Why are you the right person to not do this thing?
Okay.
So I've got a headache even thinking of this, but I've got a link to the story. And if you'd like to apply, you can do it. It's in the show notes for today at johnandheidishow.com.
John and Heidi.
Time now for your moment of duh, brought to you by InsuranceChicken.com. A Florida man with a tattoo on his face. Now, we talked earlier in the program about people with visible tattoos take more risks. Well, he was arrested for robbery. It says here, Highlands County Sheriff arrested 22-year-old Shane Jacob Ozzie Sears, arrested for robbing a man near Circle K. It says a canine and a deputy tracked him from the crime scene. They found him at home. Sears was out on bond for an arrest back in April. Felony battery, felony domestic battery, aggravated battery, and a possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. According to the sheriff's office, he was accompanied by a man who has not yet been arrested. So there you go. That's making some bad choices there. And I just thought it was interesting that we earlier in this very same program mentioned that a study had come out saying if you have visible tattoos, you make poorer choices, according to that study. And then later in the show, we've got a guy with a tattoo on his face who got arrested for robbery.
Now, I have some visible tattoos. The
and
majority of mine
you make terrible choices.
are hidden. Really, the only one you can see is the one on my wrist.
Yeah.
But all the rest of mine are pretty
And most of
hidden.
your bad decisions are also hidden. So,
that would be accurate.
thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show. Nobody wants to buy car insurance. It's not a fun thing to think about, but it's something you need if you want to drive your car. So even if you don't want to buy insurance, you probably have to get it from someone. So why not buy it from InsuranceChicken.com? Okay, I'll admit, our website name is dumb. InsuranceChicken.com. Yeah, our marketing department is not that great. But our selection of insurance options is amazing. See if we can save you money each month on our dumb website, InsuranceChicken.com. That's InsuranceChicken.com. Time now for fake news or Florida. Heidi, tell me, is this a true story from the great state of Florida, or is it fake news made up to trick you and amuse me? Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right. Fake news or Florida? Florida woman arrested for driving 70 miles per hour with her boyfriend clinging to the hood of her car and talking on the phone. Fake news or Florida?
I'll say Florida.
Yeah, it's a true story. Can you imagine just driving down the road and you see somebody pass you?
It reminds me of Police Academy. Remember that part of Police Academy?
That's exactly what it made me think of. Have you ever ridden on the outside of a vehicle?
I have not, and I would not.
I've done it twice. Once on purpose and another time accidentally. The on purpose time, I worked on a farm, and there was like a little step on the side of this truck, and I thought it was to step into the back of the truck,
right.
But we would use it to ride on there because it was fun. But it was so dangerous.
Yeah,
I look back and think, man, we're lucky we didn't get hurt. And then the second time, my third grade teacher, way after she was my third grade teacher, pulled into a parking lot where I was working, and she hit the ice and slid and hit me, and I was riding on the hood of her car for a while. And then later I was like, I think maybe she picked me out on purpose. This has been Fake News or Florida on the John and Heidi Show.
John and Heidi.
This portion of the John and Heidi Show is brought to you by the John and Heidi Show. That sounds kind of funny, but it's true. Go to your local radio station and ask them to start carrying the John and Heidi Show. Here's the best part. They can carry the show for free. They play a couple commercials, but it doesn't cost them anything every month. So if you know a radio station that could use a little bit of help, send them our way. Send them to johnandheidishow.com. Again, johnandheidishow.com. We would love to do a radio program in your community. Then you could listen to the podcast and listen to us on the radio.
John and Heidi.
We always like to wrap things up around here with good news, and I think this is good news. Comes your way courtesy of BetterCreditCards.com. And this is a cool story. I just love this. This is the kind of thing that I think is pretty darn cool. Here's the headline. Man is rewarded with $1,000 after his $13 act of kindness.
Okay.
So a man in San Antonio turned $13 into $1,000 after he helped an elderly woman who didn't have enough money in a Walmart checkout line.
Oh.
So Del Marta Stipp, she's 75, said she remembered hearing people groan as he held up the line at the checkout, as she was holding up the line, rather.
Right.
Started digging through, and she was trying to find the money. Her total was $151. Well, she had $138. She was $13 short. All of a sudden, the clerk next to me said, hey, somebody else wants to take care of it. So there was a person there, this guy,
right.
Robert, who paid
right.
the $13. The kindness of a stranger, Robert Navarro, 36. He's a security guard, by the way. She said, I felt so grateful. She called the local news to tell them about this good deed. The news planned a reunion of the two And it's when they got together that he got a nice thank you card and some coffee. And that is also when a gentleman from a local business there said, I think this is really cool. And he gave him $1,000 cash.
Wow.
So he said, you made a difference in her life, not because of the amount you spent, but because you chose to stand up and do something for her that nobody else did. So in my pocket, on behalf of, it's called Miracle Body and Paint, the place that did it. He said, this, my friend, is for you. And he gave him $1,000.
Wow.
So he said he plans to use the unexpected cash for down payment on a car. I think that is really cool.
That's amazing.
What a cool story.
That's amazing.
I've got a link to that, by the way. It's in the show notes for today at johnandheidishow.com. Time to say goodbye, Heidi.
Goodbye, Heidi.
Goodbye, everybody. Have a great day. Have a wonderful weekend. And thank you for listening to The John and Heidi Show.